My honest view is that I do not know what exactly is going on because I was not in the meeting. We've been asking to know what the scenario is. And nobody's quite clear to tell you what is being discussed and what is being agreed upon. You see debates and discussions taking place in terms of who is now being given what, who's being given which job, who's being taken to what position. If you notice, there has been statements about the former Prime Minister has made a request that, I don't know, again, whether it's true, that he wants the ODM side to be given the Vice President's position. There's a discussion about whether the ODM party is asking for the Speaker's position. Of course, where tie is there. I mean, there's so much being discussed and raised. Sami, my worry is very simple. If this engagement between Prime Minister Raila and William Ruto is going to be an engagement that is going to deal with the issues that are outstanding in the quickest time possible, so that then Kenyans can realize that the input and the engagement that Prime Minister Raila is bringing to this government, being managed and run by President William Ruto, then there's a possibility Kenyans would look at it and say, okay, I think it makes sense for him to join that government and do whatever that they are suggesting is doing. The problem is, and this is my fear, I don't see any change taking place. I don't see any, I mean, you saw yesterday, the Auditor General, I said there was money sent to AU, I think 2.6 billion shillings. She can't explain what that money was. There are things going on. You can even open just the newspapers. Unless the outstanding issues are what Raila is trying to help the president do, then I would say his joining him may not lead to much. Because yes, he may not lead to much. Change must be subjective. I should sit here as a senator from Kisii County where I'm saying, in fact, our county is now receiving all our shareable revenue on time. EACC is working well because they are doing their job. Issues about abductions of Kenyans have stopped. We have an issue about, I mean, Sami, you can look at everything that is about our country, and that change will create that. But what I hear many of my colleagues in ODM talking about is how they are now happy. They have now been given an opportunity. In fact, government is sweet. My colleagues are behaving as if they, in fact, see people like me who are always raising issues about the government as being the disgruntled and happy individuals who have nothing to offer.
What makes government sweet?
Honestly, I think people are eating. How does the government become sweet? People eat. People share the loot, state resources. I mean, Sami, people are enjoying. Didn't you see people going to Addis Ababa? What were they doing? It was sweet. Didn't you see?
We were told that.
Went. There's 2.6 billion which was sent to Ethiopia. Nobody explains what it went to do.
Okay.
This is the sweetness of African leadership. And this is what you find my brother Kaluma and other guys are complete. I mean, you see people saying, oh, it's our turn now. We've never had Samburu being a minister in this or any other government since independence. In fact, our communities now are going to start scrambling for the state largesse and what we can share. It's our time to eat. If the issues being sorted out is about eating, I'm sorry.
Senator, you say that, just like my colleague has said, Senator Onyonka, at this point, we don't have much information of the discussions that took place in Mombasa. And that's the honest take. We don't have much information. But from the onset, we've had a broad-based government, and there was a project which the President and Honorable Raila Odinga were undertaking in the AU. I can only say maybe they were now looking into the issues of how that exercise went, doing what many people would say like a postmortem of the whole event, like what took place, what transpired. why maybe we failed as a nation to succeed in getting the AUC seat and the dynamics that surrounded the electioneering at the AU. So I cannot say way beyond that. I would assume that is part of what was discussed. And I have also listened to what Honorable Raila Odinga has said about his future engagements, because he said he's available to the nation to serve, to help Kenya move to the next level.
You actually think the meeting in Mombasa was about a post-mortem on what happened in AU?
They hadn't spoken after the AU. It could have been. I'm speculating.
Dinner in Addis.
Yes, but it was a big dinner with everybody. Everyone was there. So they could have discussed it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But also, you know, if they continue discussing about engagements at broad-based government, it's not going to be a new thing, because that conversation has been there. ODM has fronted four ministers to the government, 4 cabinet secretaries to government. And you know, of course, I have seen the advertisement of the PS position and the interviews. So many things could have been discussed at their level, because they're at the very top leadership level. But what I would say is that maybe the discussions are for common good. But the one thing I can say about the ODM and what my colleague here, Senator Onyonka, is saying, how people are feeling now, they are having a moment to eat. I'm not too sure about that, but I do know definitely. The one thing I can never fault the ODM for is when they have to ask for something, they go for it. That I can say. When they want things,
what does that something entail?
When they want positions, for instance, they go for them. They negotiate. They negotiate, and you can't fault them for that. It's a political formulation. They negotiate.
But by the way, Senator, do you hold any position in UDA now?
Right now?
Yeah.
Just being
I'm in the speakers panel. Yesterday, I was appointed as elected as the vice chair, JLAC committee.
No, I'm asking in the party.
In the party, no. I'm a member. I'm an ordinary member and a nominated senator.
Okay.
And by the way, on that, let me say, I have a very interesting ideology on leadership. If you can lead people and they follow you, you must accept to be led.
No,
and in public office,
with that. I'm
also just saying, because you see the question you've asked me, it's a weighty question. It's not a question that stops there. It's a loaded question. Because you are asking, I was SG of UDA. Now I'm no longer SG of UDA. It went to Malala, and everybody knows how it went. And then it has moved on to Hassan Omar. Hassan. And that's why you are asking that loaded question, because that position moved away from me. I moved in to serve as nominated senator, speakers panel, and I'm now in JLAC and Energy Committee. And my philosophy on leadership, which is, I think, what we are missing sometimes. If you are holding a public position, it should not be entrenched for one individual alone. I'm always willing to say, if I can lead people and they follow me, I can also be led and I follow. And if I have no capacity to accept to be led, then I shouldn't have a capacity to lead people. Because when I lead people and I cannot accept to let another person to experience that leadership position, it means the day you want to remove me from that position, what will ensue from there is a very big fight. Both the party leader and the deputy party leader.
Why?
From top leadership.
Why?
I had taken up new assignment at the Senate, and the party needed somebody who was on full time.
They were trying to be inclusive.
According to the vision of the party. And they wanted to be more inclusive, like Senator Onyonka was saying. Not that I wasn't inclusive, but I left at the helm as one of the best SGs. And even in future, I would say maybe like my brother, Honorable Raila Odinga, I will be available to serve very competently at a very good position in a political party.
Okay. The thing is, if the change doesn't come, first of all, you see, Sami, look at what we are discussing. We are discussing about elections took place 2.5 years ago. Then out of those elections, the elections had doubt created about the veracity, the truthfulness and honesty and the elections being legitimate and whatever, the president was confirmed after the Supreme Court made a ruling, all right, which many people really questioned the ruling and all that. Then we move in and kaboom, the system then begins to do what? To break down. And then the Gen Zs come along, and then they start demanding those very basic issues about good governance and all that stuff. And then out of nowhere, what happens? Now you see, if you look back retrospectively, all right, now we then discover, oh my God, Azimio actually had the majority. All right, but whoever that was crafting the coalition government, which you, the broad-based agreement.
Was that deliberate?
The broad-based agreement is then negotiated. Why is it negotiated? Because I believe whoever that was advising the president must have told him, you do not have the numbers.
Yeah.
All right, so we've moved on. And then what are we doing? You have government agreeing that individuals from the opposition, some you remember, you remember how the BBI and how NATCO were kicked out. The argument was very simple. The very essence of the structure of governance in the country, you are actually creating a mongrel. All right, this mongrel is now a mix of, Sam, I don't know whether I'm an opposition senator.
Which the president has said will never form.
Yes, over through his campaigns and how Nusumuka, I mean, the irony of our politics and the hypocrisy of it blows me up. That's why today I'm like, I don't even know what to answer you. I mean, you can see things are moving out, and then we go to Ethiopia, then we fail to get what took us to Ethiopia, then the government makes this a project, that project fails, and then the prime minister comes and there are negotiations taking place. What are the negotiations taking place? We have members of the opposition negotiating with the government in power. Sam, are you with me?
Yep.
The point I'm raising, and this is what really makes many Kenyans get shocked. What are we negotiating? Is it positions of authority? Is it that I have my brother and friend John Badi being CS? Is it that Wandai is a CS in transport? I mean in energy. Is it what? I mean, you see the discussion taking place when you listen to people talk about what is going on. The message you are getting is people are asking, what is this thing you people are coordinating and putting together?
Right.
We are not discussing the challenges of our governance. That is my heartbreak.
Okay.
We are discussing availability of positions, we are discussing big things being discussed, and yet the issues that are affecting Kenyans right now as we speak.
If he says a new moment is coming, I'll not put it beyond that. I will say, yes, there is possibility.
I mean, what does that momentum mean? What momentum do we need today?
I think if you ask me, the momentum we need for the people of Kenya is service delivery. And anything being formulated that does not then have service delivery to the people at its very core, people-centered momentum that then drives the agenda that the government wanted to fulfill with the people, then that momentum may not be exactly what the people may be looking at. So for me, I would say that if the leadership positions that are being given are intended to drive the momentum of development, then yes, it is okay.
Do you think that
if they don't improve service delivery, then they'll fall short. And Kenyans will be there to judge. You look at field leaderships like DRC, when conversations, leaders cannot have a proper conversation, yet they have influence over people. What eventually happens? If everything breaks down, Sam, you won't wake up and come to this studio. If everything breaks down, you see DRC, the people in Goma are waking up and finding out, how can I get to Kampala or how can I get to Nairobi? Because of a failed nation state. We must never allow ourselves to go to that level. We are not in that situation. No, we are not facing that situation, but we must not allow. What was your understanding of that crisis? Yeah?
You tell me.
Because when you look at what could have happened then, then you look at how else do we help the nation continue working in a more stable fashion so that we don't fall into a situation. Parliament, when you come to parliament formulation, the political parties, the coalition which has the majority remains the KK. But now, when you come to the broader question of politics, harmonizing, bringing people together, unifying the nation, that has been the rallying call of the president. And when we talk about unity, Sam, so that we don't misunderstand it, it is not a unity that leaves one region out. Mm-hmm. It is not a unity that leaves central region out. It's not a unity that leaves out the western or the Nyanza or the coast. Yeah. It's a unity that brings together 47 counties. So let me be very clear on that. So that anybody who's also trying to drive a narrative that let's have unity of this number against this number, that would also be the wrong formulation. Okay. In terms of bringing stabilized politics. Because you know, that election was contested.
So stolen.
It was contested at the highest court of this land. And a decision was rendered. And a decision was rendered. That's my very learned colleague want us to believe, or want Kenyans to believe, that Raila Odinga won that election when a petition was done to contest that election. It was heard fully. Verification was done. Scrutiny of vote was done. And the victory was handed over, not just by the Kenyans, but also by the Supreme Court. It was affirmed and confirmed
Madam Speaker, by
the Supreme Court.
Madam Speaker.
Even a thought process along a referendum is not, should not be a strange creature. Why? The Constitution itself provides for it. The Constitution envisages a situation where when you begin implementing this 2010 Constitution, whatever gaps you find, you remember, even when this Constitution was voted in, it wasn't like 100% perfect, agreeable to everybody. So whatever gaps you find can always be cured through amendments or through referendums. So that we should stop discussing referendum as if it's a whip intended to punish one group vis-a-vis another group. Indeed, it should be seen as an opportunity to cure the many gaps that are within our Constitution. And our Constitution does have gaps. Let me say this. The way now it's being dangled, and the problem we are having as a nation, in my assessment, is that as soon as elections are over, people don't stop. They don't move away from the framework or the mindset of competition and elections. Because if we were to move away from the mindset of now the elections are over, we now start building the country, everybody would now today be shouting, actually, let's have a much bigger handshake. Let's have all the Kenyans, the interests of the Kenyans on the table. We start looking at what is it that is ailing this community, what is ailing this community, what is ailing that community. So you can achieve a genuine unification of a nation.
What would that...
The problem we have right now...
Sorry, what would that handshake look like of all Kenyans?
A handshake of all Kenyans, where people agree that when it comes to development, we read from the statistics we have. It looks as though it is fashionable in Kenya to permanently oppose anything that is being done. And it's always like a culture that has been formulated that when government is in power and is working towards this direction, another wave of opposition, which never stopped from the point of elections, because some people walk past elections believing, I did not lose. I won, but my win was stolen. When you walk with that mindset, Sam, anything that is done after that election, when you don't bury and say, okay, now we are done, the disputes are done, we have gone a full cycle, let's move to the next phase, which is a phase of development. When we fail to do that, that's why you find so many anomalies
here.
Let
me ask you, Senator, whose work is it to develop the country?
Definitely the government that is in power holds the executive, holds the mandate.
Sorry.
But you know, when you ask a very a question that is wide, that is it's
okay,
like,
let me narrow it down again.
You narrow it down.
Majority in the National Assembly, in the Senate.
Judges out of office. I think they would come out open to the public in an accountable manner and indicate that they would want the removal of the Supreme Court judges. And short of that, we should avoid the speculation, because what has been happening mostly, Sam, is that we have a very speculative social media that can read in between the lines do some theories, develop postulations of what could be happening, and then come out and say maybe this is the, the certain individuals who are looking to hound out the judges from their offices. I think we should stop the speculation, because a removal from office of a judge of a superior court is well stipulated in the Constitution. Right. And if you look at who has petitioned the JSC for the removal of the Supreme Court judges and the CJ, we are very clear. We know it's Nelson Harvey has one petition. Maybe we have another few petitions that are before the JSC. And I haven't seen any petition from, let's say, the presidency, or let's say the executive, or I haven't seen any person who has come out from the executive or from the presidency to indicate that they are interested in the removal of the judges. And unless that intention is made clear in writing, then we cannot clearly say that they are the one. If, for instance, any person wanted to remove a judge from office, they may have a right under Article 168 if they feel that grounds are persisting, which would then support the removal of that judge from their office. So that means by expression through media, they would come out openly and say, I'm uncomfortable with this judge, I'm uncomfortable with the behavior or the conduct of the CJ, or uncomfortable with any judge of the High Court or Superior Court, and for that reason, I am bringing this petition, and I'm convinced, just the way Nelson Harvey is doing, I believe they would be strong enough to do that, because you cannot, as a strong leader, to sit in the background or in a back room somewhere, purport to want to remove a judge and not come out clearly to say.
I mean, you see if you look at the scenario, the political scenario that is cooking in our space, in the country, political space. One, we have moved away from, if there was any strategy on development agenda, talking about policy, trying to change things if there's a problem. And we have now shifted onto the normal stating and justifying or even complaining on what is happening. Honestly, I feel that on a fair basis, it doesn't look good to stand up in a public function and actually warn the president that he cannot come to a certain area. That basically means then you are raising up those temperatures and you're making whoever that message is supposed to get to, of course, to be radicalized because of what is happening. But to me, this is a symptom. This is a symptom of our politics. The issues, I think they are all known to all of us. The issues which are there, you understand what happened to DP Gachagua, and I don't think he's going to stop soon. I think he will continue raising those issues because obviously he doesn't have state function right now. He's more freer, and people are visiting him. How I would pray and wish that I really enjoy when he talks. I actually do, because he picks points in a very different manner. The only thing that worries me is if you pick now the statements that he's making, which then, for example, what would happen if the president traveled to Meru and something happens? This would be seen as a precursor or an earlier thought out, which then...
But on the question of removing the judges, what is the intention?
On the question of removing the judges, I'm just where my speaker is. I mean, Sam, there are things happening in this country right now that are really shocking. And the things that are happening in the country, including the issue of removing the Chief Justice, the issue of having all these groups that are having issues in their countries, looking at the stories which are coming up, if true, then my feeling is that the state known as Kenya is actually in danger. All right, it's in danger. Why? Because now the mix is in between the politics. Seeing everywhere, you're having issues of how certain individuals in the government are doing business. I mean, everything is...
What business are they doing?
You didn't see, there's a statement from the Sudanese government which is saying that the president has been selling gold with the militia leader from Sudan.
How true is that?
It's a report from a newspaper in Dubai which has posted out everything, the amounts and the quantities. I don't know whether it's true. I am just saying if that is the case.
My friend's wrong reference to me as naive.
Well, I apologize.
Naive must be farthest from the truth, because what I would say is actually that his argument is very ignorant of Article 168 of the Constitution. Article 18, which stipulates how a judge may be removed of Superior Court may be removed from the office. And his argument, yes, I do agree there is politicization of the matter, and I have indicated that, that the challenge we might be having now is politicization and reading in between the lines, reading beyond what the script is saying. Because if a strong individual like Nelson Harvey, who is a seasoned lawyer, presents a petition, do you honestly want to believe that he does not understand what he's doing and that he's actually being used to present that petition? If it's an ordinary Kenyan, and I'm not saying an ordinary Kenyan doesn't have average intelligence, because they do have average intelligence. If it's if it's a person who is not at the level of Nelson Harvey presenting that petition, you look at the profile of the person presenting the petition, and you see that the person who is even presenting the petition can't even read or write, has even been written down for, though you could also have such a petitioner, and as a strong petitioner who actually does not have the ability to read and write, but they need help in the reading and writing. Do you want to tell me that that petitioner, like Nelson Harvey, does not understand what he's doing when he presents a petition? Yes, he does. I also admit that, yes, now the issue has been politicized. Politicized to the extent that when we see the president being told you cannot step in Meru if the CJ is removed, there are two issues here, and I want to separate the two. First, the matter is in court, so we comment only on the political part of it. I believe the process that has been initiated against the whole bench, against the whole of Supreme Court, is faulty. It's erroneous and faulty, in the sense that even under the Constitution does not envisage removal of a bench. Like, you cannot remove six judges together. It envisages removal of a judge at a time. Each judge is given their own opportunity to defend themselves, to present their case, and a petition is made against specific judges. What do we have? The petition that has been presented is to wipe away, scrape off the Supreme Court. So are we looking at the institution? The person who is petitioning for removal of a whole Supreme Court, are they interested in amending the Constitution so that you don't have a Supreme Court? Or what is the motive driving that petition? So let me be clear on those two. But on the politicization, so that I am clear that I think the process being used is wrong, to say that the CJ and the Supreme Court judges should be removed. On the part of the politicization, that the president is the one who wants to remove, it would only come if does he have a function in the removal? That's the first question you ask. Does the president have a function in the removal? If I'm seated as JESC, having the mandate as a commissioner to look through the removal of even a judge, I myself, competent enough as a commissioner, would use my competence to say whether this judge should be removed or this judge should not be removed. Nobody should fail to do their duty, by the way, and state officers and public officers need to be very cautious. Nobody should fail to do their rightful duty and then ride behind politics that I have done this bad action because I was told by Sam Gituku to do that bad action. Do you not have your own feet and your own...
But let me ask you.
Somebody wants to remove you from your job today as an anchor. It is your right to challenge if you feel it is being done wrongly and the due process is not being followed, or if you feel it's driven by malice, that you've done so well in Citizen that maybe even people are feeling jealous, so they want to remove you from that position. It is your right to defend yourself. So for me, I would say, if the CJ and the judges feel they are wrongfully being pushed through a process, it is their right to go to court. And they are, of course, you know very well that somebody like Governor Kawira Mwangaza, after impeachment was done in Senate and completed,
but
how is she back in office?